Git is a free version control software that allows you to save multiple versions of your code and revert back if you ever make a mistake or change your mind about a new feature. More than that, Git allows you to collaborate with other developers on the same project without stepping on each other's toes. It's a great tool to use and truly an essential one to have mastery over. First, you'll want to go ahead and download and install Git if it's not already available on your machine. Once you have Git installed, you can check to make sure it's there by typing git-version into your terminal. We'll be using Git in all of our projects to maintain our version control. What version control provides us with is another way to save our project, but one that enables us to go back to a previous version easily. Each time you save, or as the term goes, commit, a version, you're telling the version control and your future self what you're saving in it in the form of a message. These will be really useful if we ever have to go back and revert to a previous version. As I mentioned, Git allows multiple people to work together on the same project without stepping on each other's toes. Imagine that you and I are working on the same set of files, but for different reasons. Maybe your task is to adjust all of the colors, and my task is to change the text. If we didn't use a version control software, when we both saved our changes, the last person to save would end up overwriting what the first person did, because they wouldn't have any knowledge of what that person did. That's why Git gives us a feature called branching. Picture your project like a tree, where the main branch, or the trunk, is where everything is solid and unchanging. Branches are just like tree branches. They divert from one branch and are designed to add on to it or modify it in some way. As with developers, we do most of our work on branches off of that main branch. This branching allows us to further isolate the things we're working on and ensure not only that we don't step on each other's toes, but also that we don't break a working part of the app, the main branch. Once a developer has finished working on a branch, they'll actually take the contents of that branch and merge it back onto the main branch. However, before they do this, they need to make sure that it's working properly so that it won't break anything when it's merged in. Using Git can seem complicated at first, but once you get used to it, it will feel like second nature. To start using Git in a new project, create the folder for that project, go into it using your terminal, and type in git init. Now you have a Git repository. There are a few Git commands we'll be using as we do our work, including git add, git commit, and git push. Git add is the command to tell your computer, hey, I'm happy with my progress up until this point, and I'm ready to start saving my files to the version control. I want to add a few files to this version. So, git add period adds all of the files you've worked on so far, which you may or may not want to do. You can also just use git add and then the names of the files if you don't want to save all of them in this version. Once you've added the files or staged them, you'll want to go ahead and commit them to the version control software. Commits are very common to do as a software engineer. They not only allow us to track our progress, but this is how we can revert back to a previous version if we've made a mistake or change that we didn't like. As the phrase goes, commit early and commit often. Finally, there's git push. Git push allows you to connect your local repository, the folder on your computer, with one that's remote. When you git push, you'll push your changes to that remote repository and save them there as well. We'll be doing this a lot with GitHub. There are a couple other commands you'll want to familiarize yourself with. Git clone, for instance, allows you to take another repository and copy it to your computer. Typically, this is done when copying a repository on GitHub to your computer. Once you've connected your local repository with a remote one, if there are ever any changes made to that remote one, say another developer makes a change and pushes it there, you can use git pull to bring those changes to your local repository. As we've talked about branching before, there are a few commands related specifically to creating and accessing branches. You'll use git branch to see all of the branches related to your repository. If you want to check out a new branch, you can use git checkout -b and then the name of the branch you'd like to create. There are a ton of other options that you can access with Git, including deleting a branch and merging a branch. Don't worry if you can't remember all of this. VS Code actually has a really handy side panel that allows you to access all of this really easy. And of course, there's always the Git documentation online. I'll leave a link to that site in the description below.